The capacity for mental clarity and sustained memory in the later decades of life is not merely a matter of biological luck, but a reflection of the alignment between intention and physical choices. Many individuals over the age of 60 accept the gradual dimming of their cognitive faculties as an inevitable consequence of time. Yet this resignation often stems from a misunderstanding of how specific dietary inputs influence the vibrational energy of the brain. A widespread but flawed belief persists that all fruits, simply by virtue of being natural, contribute equally to health, ignoring the reality that certain high-sugar profiles can create inflammatory storms that cloud the mind. By distinguishing between foods that drain vitality and those that elevate the body's frequency, the individual can reclaim a state of sharpness and purpose. This journey offers a roadmap to discerning the subtle energies of nutrition, ensuring that the vessel of the body remains a clear channel for the mind's highest potential. The hidden burden of high glycemic sugars. The human body operates as a finely tuned instrument of energy, and the fuel chosen for this vessel dictates the clarity of the music it produces. For the individual navigating the years beyond 60, the metabolic landscape shifts, rendering the system less tolerant of rapid fluctuations in blood glucose. When one consumes fruits with an exceptionally high glycemic index, the immediate sensation may be one of pleasure or a quick burst of energy, but the biological aftermath tells a different story. The rapid influx of sugar forces the pancreas to surge insulin production, a mechanism that, when overtaxed, leads to systemic inflammation. This inflammation is not merely a localized event in the gut or the blood. It crosses the delicate barriers protecting the brain, creating a fog that obscures memory and focus. The brain, which requires a steady and calm supply of fuel to function at its peak, becomes overwhelmed by these spikes and crashes, leading to moments of confusion or forgetfulness that are often mistakenly attributed to age rather than dietary misalignment. Dyer often spoke of the body as a temple that houses the divine essence of the self, and treating it with reverence requires an honest assessment of what serves its highest good. In this context, dried fruits such as raisins, dates, and dried cranberries often present a deceptive allure. While they are concentrated sources of nutrients, the dehydration process removes the water that typically slows down sugar absorption, leaving behind a dense packet of glucose and fructose. For a younger metabolism, this might represent a manageable load, but for the senior physiology, it can mimic the impact of processed candy. The consumption of these dense sugars creates a vibrational dissonance, lowering the body's energy field from a state of calm alertness to one of agitated instability. The intention to nourish the self is present, but the execution falters because the density of the sugar outweighs the benefit of the fiber, leading to a net loss in cognitive clarity. A deeper understanding of this dynamic reveals that the brain's hippocampus, the center for memory and learning, is particularly sensitive to these insulin spikes. High blood sugar levels have been linked to the shrinking of this vital brain region, a physical manifestation of a loss of connection to one's own history and wisdom. Tropical fruits like overly ripe mangoes or pineapples, while rich in vitamins, carry a glycemic load that can trigger this cascade if consumed without mindfulness or moderation. The individual who seeks to maintain a sharp mind must learn to view these foods not as forbidden, but as potent sources of energy that require careful handling. It is a shift from mindless consumption to conscious selection, recognizing that what tastes sweet in the moment may leave a bitter legacy of cognitive decline in the hours that follow. The choice becomes one of prioritizing long-term clarity over momentary sensory gratification. There exists a profound connection between the physiological state of the body and the spiritual state of the mind. When the physical vessel is burdened by the roller coaster of blood sugar instability, the ability to meditate, to reflect, and to connect with the source of one's being is compromised. The mind becomes reactive rather than creative, driven by the biological imperative to manage the sugar crash rather than the soul's desire to expand. By reducing the intake of these high-sugar fruits, the individual is not depriving themselves, but rather clearing the interference that disrupts their internal signal. It is an act of self-love to say no to the dense, cloying energy of excessive fructose in favor of foods that sustain a lighter, more vibrant state of being. The removal of these draining influences allows the natural luminosity of the mind to return, proving that clarity is the natural state when obstacles are removed. Consider the scenario of a person who begins their day with a bowl of oatmeal topped generously with raisins and a side of sliced mango. They believe they're making a healthy start. Yet by mid-morning, they find themselves struggling to recall the name of an acquaintance or feeling a wave of lethargy that discourages them from their daily walk. This is the sugar trap in action, a subtle thief of vitality that operates under the guise of nutrition. The individual may blame a poor night's sleep or the weather, missing the direct correlation between the contents of their breakfast bowl and the performance of their brain. By swapping the dried fruit for a handful of walnuts or the mango for a tart green apple, the metabolic impact is altered drastically. The blood sugar curve flattens, the insulin response is muted, and the brain receives a steady stream of fuel that supports sustained attention and retrieval. However, it is important to acknowledge that the exclusion of these fruits need not be absolute for every person. There are times when the body has expended significant energy, perhaps after a long hike or vigorous gardening, where the rapid replenishment provided by a sweet fruit is appropriate. The key lies in the context and the frequency of consumption. The danger arises when these high-glycemic foods become dietary staples rather than occasional treats. For the sedentary individual, or one who is already managing insulin sensitivity, the margin for error is slim. The wisdom lies in listening to the body's feedback loops, noticing the fog that settles in after the sweet snack, and honoring that signal as a truth teller. It is a practice of tuning in to the subtle vibrations of the physical form and respecting its changing needs through the seasons of life. The mechanism of glycation offers another layer of understanding regarding why sugar acts as a memory drain. When excess glucose circulates in the blood, it can bind to proteins and lipids, forming harmful molecules known as advanced glycation end products. These molecules can damage the blood vessels that supply the brain with oxygen and nutrients, effectively choking off the resources needed for optimal function. This physical hardening of the vessels mirrors a hardening of the mind, a rigidity that opposes the flow of life and new ideas. By limiting the intake of the most sugary fruits, the individual protects the flexibility and permeability of their vascular system, ensuring that the life force, carried by the blood, can reach every corner of the brain without obstruction. This protection of the physical pathways is essential for maintaining the open, receptive state of mind that characterizes a vibrant elderhood. Why do I continue to choose foods that cloud my connection to the present moment? The illusion of liquid fruit and processed vitality, the modern food landscape is replete with products that promise health but deliver a concentrated assault on the metabolic system. And nowhere is this more evident than in the realm of fruit juices and processed fruit products. For the individual seeking to preserve memory and cognitive sharpness, the transformation of whole fruit into liquid form represents a fundamental stripping away of nature's protective mechanisms. In the whole fruit, fiber acts as a gatekeeper, slowing the absorption of sugar and signaling satiety to the brain. When this fiber is removed to create juice, the sugar is delivered to the liver and bloodstream with a violence that the aging body is ill-equipped to handle. This is not merely a nutritional error. It is a disruption of the natural order, a bypass of the necessary effort of digestion that mirrors the desire for quick fixes in other areas of life. Wayne Dyer's philosophy emphasizes the importance of authenticity and seeing things as they truly are, rather than how they are packaged or presented. Fruit juice, often marketed as a pure and wholesome elixir, frequently contains as much sugar as a carbonated soft drink. When an individual consumes a glass of grape or orange juice, they are ingesting the sugar content of several fruits in seconds, without the chewing or bulk that would normally limit consumption. This flood of fructose puts immense strain on the liver, which converts the excess directly into fat and releases inflammatory markers into the bloodstream. These markers travel to the brain, where they can interfere with synaptic plasticity, the ability of the brain to form new connections and adapt to new information. The illusion of health thus becomes a vehicle for decline, as the very drink intended to vitalize the body instead promotes a state of chronic, low-grade inflammation. The consumption of canned fruits preserved in syrup is another manifestation of this deceptive vitality. The syrup, often a high-fructose corn syrup solution, permeates the fruit, turning what was once a source of vitamins into a sponge for processed sugar. This double burden, the natural sugar of the fruit combined with the industrial sugar of the syrup, creates a glycemic load that is devastating for memory retention. The brain relies on a delicate balance of chemicals to encode and retrieve memories, a balance that is easily disrupted by the chaotic energy of processed sugars. To consume such products is to invite a chaotic frequency into the body, one that scatters focus and dulls the sharp edge of the intellect. It is a surrender of personal power to the convenience of industry, accepting a lower vibration of food that inevitably leads to a lower vibration of thought. Within the brain, the impact of these liquid and processed sugars can be seen in the reduction of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that supports the survival of existing neurons and encourages the growth of new ones. Low levels of this factor are consistently linked to memory disorders and depression. By relying on juices and canned fruits, the individual unwittingly suppresses the production of this vital protein, effectively signaling the brain to stop growing and repairing. This biological reality underscores the spiritual truth that what we consume shapes who we become. To continue growing in wisdom and insight during the later years, the physical substrate of the brain must be supported by foods that encourage growth, not those that stifle it. The choice to drink water or herbal tea instead of juice is an affirmation of the desire to keep the mind fertile and expansive. Imagine a person attending a social gathering where the options are diverse. They're offered a glass of punch made from fruit concentrates or a small bowl of fruit salad from a can. To the unobservant eye, these seem like polite, healthy choices. However, the person who has cultivated a deep respect for their body's intelligence recognizes the trap. They understand that the momentary sweetness will be followed by a crash that compromises their ability to engage meaningfully in conversation later that evening. By choosing instead to drink water with a slice of lemon or to wait for a whole piece of fruit, they're asserting control over their internal environment. They are choosing presence over convenience, ensuring that their interactions remain authentic and their memory of the event remains clear. This small act of discernment is a powerful declaration of self-worth. There's a counter-argument often raised that fruit juice contains essential vitamins like vitamin C and potassium, which are beneficial for the body. While the presence of these nutrients is undeniable, the delivery system is flawed for the aging metabolism. The benefits of the vitamins are often outweighed by the metabolic cost of the sugar spike. It is a situation where the good is inextricably bound to the detrimental, creating a net negative effect for the senior brain. The wisdom lies in seeking these nutrients from sources that do not carry the same heavy price tag, getting vitamin C from a whole orange or bell peppers and potassium from leafy greens or avocados. It is about finding the purest path to nourishment, one that does not require the body to fight a battle against sugar toxicity to access the good within. The pervasive nature of high-sugar grapes, particularly modern varieties bred for extreme sweetness, also falls into this category of draining influences. While technically a whole fruit, these grapes have been engineered to be little more than bags of sugar water wrapped in skin. The ease with which one can consume a large volume of grapes without feeling full allows for a massive sugar intake in a short sitting. This mindless grazing disconnects the individual from the act of eating, turning nourishment into a passive activity. Reclaiming the sanctity of the meal requires a return to foods that demand engagement, foods that must be peeled, chewed thoroughly, or prepared with care. This intentionality in eating translates to intentionality in living, fostering a mind that is awake and aware rather than sluggish and passive. Where in my life am I accepting a convenient illusion over a more difficult truth? The vibrational resonance of protective pigments in contrast to the draining nature of high-sugar and processed options. There exists a category of fruits that act as guardians of the mind, vibrating with the energy of protection and renewal. Berries, specifically blueberries, strawberries, and blackberries, stand as the paragons of this protective class. These fruits are not merely food. They are concentrated packets of information that communicate directly with the body's genetic code to enhance defense and repair. The deep, rich pigments that give these berries their color are visual evidence of their potency. These anthocyanins and flavonoids are powerful antioxidants that scour the body for free radicals, the unstable molecules that cause cellular rust and aging. For the person over 60, whose natural antioxidant defenses may be waning, these fruits serve as an essential external reinforcement, a shield against the wear and tear of time. Wayne Dyer taught that everything in the universe is energy, and that by aligning with higher energies, one can transcend physical limitations. The energy of these dark pigmented fruits is one of resilience and preservation. When an individual consumes a handful of wild blueberries, they are ingesting the resilience that allowed that fruit to survive in harsh climates. This resilience is transferred to the consumer, manifesting biologically as reduced inflammation in the neural pathways. The compounds in berries have been shown to cross the blood-brain barrier and accumulate in areas of the brain associated with learning and memory. They act as sentinels, standing guard over the neurons and facilitating clearer communication between brain cells. This is nutrition as a spiritual ally, a partnership between the human and the plant kingdom to preserve the light of consciousness. The mechanism by which berries protect the brain extends to the improvement of signaling pathways. As the brain ages, the signals between neurons can become faint or noisy, leading to the senior moments that many fear. The flavonoids in strawberries and blackberries work to sharpen these signals, effectively turning up the volume on the brain's internal communication network. This enhanced signaling allows for faster processing speed and better retrieval of stored information. It is akin to tuning a radio to a clear frequency, eliminating the static that interferes with the broadcast. By consistently including these fruits in the diet, the individual is maintaining the integrity of their transmission, ensuring that their thoughts, memories, and wisdom can be accessed and expressed without distortion. Applied to daily life, this understanding transforms the simple act of eating breakfast or a snack into a ritual of self-care. Picture an individual who replaces their morning toast or pastry with a bowl of Greek yogurt topped with fresh blackberries and walnuts. This meal provides a dual benefit. The fat's slow absorption and the berry pigments immediately begin their work of neuroprotection. The person feels a sustained sense of alertness throughout the morning, devoid of the jitters or crashes associated with sugar. Over weeks and months, this habit compounds, resulting in a noticeable difference in their ability to learn new skills, remember names, and engage in complex problem solving. It is a practical application of the belief that we have the power to influence our own aging process through conscious choice. There are those who might argue that the cost of fresh berries makes them inaccessible or that their tartness is unpalatable compared to sweeter fruits. While accessibility can be a genuine concern, frozen berries offer the same, if not superior, nutritional profile at a lower cost and with greater convenience. The freezing process locks in the nutrients at peak ripeness, preserving the life force of the fruit. Regarding taste, the palate is a malleable thing. As one reduces the intake of hypersweet processed foods, the natural, complex sweetness of a blueberry or strawberry becomes more satisfying. The shift in preference is a sign of the body recalibrating to a more natural set point, finding pleasure in foods that offer genuine nourishment rather than empty stimulation. Furthermore, the ritual of consuming these protective fruits can be seen as an act of gratitude for the abundance of the earth. The complexity of a single strawberry, its seeds, its texture, its fragrance, is a miracle of nature. To eat it with awareness is to participate in that miracle. This mindful eating practices slows down the consumption, allowing the body's satiety signals to function and preventing overeating. It turns the meal into a meditation, a moment of pause in the day to reconnect with the source of life. This spiritual grounding, combined with the biochemical benefits, creates a holistic approach to brain health that addresses the needs of both the hardware, the brain tissue, and the software, the mind and spirit. The inclusion of these fruits is not a magic bullet that will instantly reverse decades of wear, but it is a powerful lever for change. It represents a commitment to the long game, a daily vote for clarity and against decline. By consistently flooding the system with these protective compounds, the individual creates an environment where the brain can thrive despite the passage of time. It is a proactive stance, a refusal to be a passive victim of aging, and an embrace of the tools provided by nature to maintain a luminous and active mind. How can I nurture my body today to ensure my wisdom remains accessible tomorrow? The sustained clarity of fatty and low-sugar gifts, the final pillar of this nutritional strategy, involves embracing fruits that defy the conventional expectation of sweetness, offering instead the steady, grounding energy of healthy fats and low glycemic profiles. Avocados, often mistaken for vegetables, are in fact fruits that provide a profound service to the aging brain. Rich in monounsaturated fats, they support the physical structure of the brain, which is itself largely composed of fat. These healthy fats are essential for maintaining the integrity of the cell membranes, keeping them soft and permeable so that nutrients can enter and waste can exit. In the philosophy of Dyer, this fluidity is essential. A rigid mind cannot expand, and a rigid cell cannot function. The avocado offers the gift of flexibility, ensuring that the biological machinery of thought remains supple and adaptable. Tomatoes, another botanical fruit often categorized as culinary vegetable, provide a different form of protection through the potent antioxidant lycopene. This compound has been linked to the reduction of stroke risk and the prevention of cognitive decline. Unlike the fleeting energy of sugary grape, the tomato provides a stable, enduring form of nourishment that does not disrupt the body's glycemic balance. When consumed with a healthy fat, such as olive oil, the absorption of lycopene is significantly enhanced, illustrating the synergistic nature of whole foods. This combination speaks to the interconnectedness of all things, how one element supports another to create a result greater than the sum of its parts. For the senior individual, understanding these synergies allows for the creation of meals that are not just filling, but deeply restorative. The coconut, with its medium-chain triglycerides, MCTs, offers a unique fuel source for the brain. These fats can be converted into ketones, which serve as an alternative energy source for brain cells that may have trouble processing glucose efficiently, a common issue in aging brains. By providing this backup fuel, coconut helps to keep the lights on in the mind, even when the primary energy pathways are faltering. This is akin to having a generator for the soul's temple, ensuring that the consciousness remains bright even when external conditions are challenging. The intention behind consuming coconut is one of preparedness and resilience, equipping the body with diverse resources to handle the demands of life. Integrating these fatty and low-sugar fruits into the daily rhythm implies a shift from seeking comfort and sweetness to finding satisfaction in sustenance. A lunch that features a salad with sliced avocado, tomatoes, and a dressing of olive oil and lemon provides a profound sense of satiety that lasts for hours. This metabolic peace allows the mind to detach from the constant craving for food, freeing up mental energy for higher pursuits, whether that be creative expression, deep conversation, or spiritual practice. The absence of hunger pangs and energy crashes creates a silence in the body, a quiet space where the voice of intuition can be heard more clearly. It is in this silence that the true self resides, unburdened by the noisy demands of fluctuating blood sugar. It is important to address the fear of fat that still lingers in the minds of many who grew up during the low-fat diet crazes of previous decades. The reluctance to consume avocados or coconut due to their calorie density is a misunderstanding of how the body utilizes energy. The brain needs these fats to insulate neurons and speed up signal transmission. Depriving the body of them in the name of weight control is a false economy that pays for a thinner waistline with a slower mind. The wisdom of the later years involves recognizing that the metrics of health have changed. It is no longer about the number on the scale, but the quality of the life experienced. Choosing these nutrient-dense foods is an act of trust in the body's wisdom to use what it needs for repair and cognition. Ultimately, the journey to protecting the brain and draining the sources of interference is a holistic endeavor. It brings together the biochemistry of nutrition with the spirituality of intention. By eliminating the high-sugar fruits that cause inflammation and fog, the dried fruits, the juices, the syrups, and embracing the protective power of berries, avocados, and tomatoes, the individual over 60 reclaims their agency. They declare that their later years will not be a time of dimming light, but of increasing radiance. This approach honors the body as the vehicle of the soul, keeping it tuned, polished, and ready to serve the higher purpose of a life well lived. The clarity that results is not just a biological function. It is the platform upon which wisdom stands, allowing the elder to share their light with a world that desperately needs it. What signal am I sending to my body with the fuel I choose right now?